Let's start the Oscar campaign right now for Bill Hader, because damn, he nailed it in this. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a brand new movie review. Today I'm going to be discussing It Chapter 2. Non-spoilers, of course, because that's no fun with spoiling a film. I want you guys to go out with yourself and be able to appreciate the film in the best way. Of course, it's been 27 years later since It Chapter 1, and everyone's returning to Derry because certain things are coming afloat, and Pennywise might just be back in town. This is one of my most anticipated films of the year. I'm a major fan of the book. I loved the first It and everything that Andy Muschietti had done within that first chapter, and diving into It Chapter 2, you coming in with the same director, an excellent cast on board, playing the adult loser club. Really, I was so psyched for this film. You see some of the reception coming out at first, a little bit mixed over on Twitter, and then you kind of just dive into this film, and I go into, with my expectations a little bit tempered, but not knowing exactly what I was going to get out of this, because as I look at the first film, it is definitely a coming-of-age film with horror moments to it, and just like the book, that's how I kind of view the book. The second part, though, I was expecting a little bit more horror. While I didn't get more horror, I got a more emotional and more ambitious film than I was expecting. And with that said, I would actually go and say this is like one of the first epilogues to a coming-of-age story that we've seen that kind of tells the story and tells more to what happens to after the coming-of-age story happens, while still having and mixing in and sprinkling in a little bit of those horror elements. I can surely say this. I don't think this is a horror film. I think it has horror moments to it, but I would not categorize this as a horror film. I think a lot of people will. A lot of people are going to go in wanting to get scared shitless, but you're not going to. In fact, this is a slow-moving movie at times, and that can be a detriment to itself. I didn't mind it at times. There are some things that I think you could have taken out completely, and kind of just diving into my cons in general for this film, I think this film should have had at least 20 minutes snipped out of it. For a 2 hour and 45 minute runtime, sometimes I didn't feel it, but there are definitely moments that I do, and there are a lot of flashbacks to the younger kids that I felt like some were very unnecessary and didn't need to be in the film at all. We got a whole film before them with these kids, and I felt like in this one, we didn't need all those aspects in there with all the flashbacks. Some of them you did need in there, and I can defend those, but there are others in here where I'm like, I don't think you really needed this, or you could have chopped it up just a bit. And speaking on those flashbacks, they actually de-aged some of the kids, especially Finn Wolfhard, and you can clearly tell. The visual effects for it are not the best, sadly. And that actually extends to some of the monsters, some of the other creatures in here. Not all the visual effects are bad, but there are some shots in here where I was like, woof, this is a big film, and that's clearly fake. When I'm seeing films nowadays with some superior CGI, I expect a little bit better within this film. While the CGI might not be the best at times, and it does take you out of the film, and of course, the flashbacks, I don't think all of them were needed. While there are also some other callbacks and Easter eggs in here that might take you out of the film just a bit, that I kind of rolled my eyes at. I'm like, I didn't think this needed to be in here. I think It Chapter 2 is still a fantastic conclusion to this series. I didn't walk out disappointed. I walked out saying this is a great series, and with just like how Kill Bill is, if you watch Kill Bill Volume 1, you definitely just have to go into Kill Bill Volume 2, and you can't just watch Kill Bill Volume 2 without Kill Bill Volume 1. I look at that the same as It. You can't watch 1 without 2, and the same thing, you can't watch 2 without 1. This is a fantastic, again, big, ambitious project of having both films put together, and the way that it works in such great ways was superior, and that all goes down to Andy Muschietti's direction. His direction here is strong. While his vision might not be as cohesive for some of the sequences in here, it is certainly his direction that really powers this film through, making a great through line to the first film and through the second film. And I think that's what he nailed so well in here, and especially the emotional aspect with inside here and with all the loser club. I loved every person that they picked for the adults. It never felt off for me, and the chemistry with all one another of them really worked wonders in here. It felt like it never skipped a beat, and it really felt like these kids had grown up, especially when you're looking at the flashbacks and how they formed into these newer adult versions of them. They're great. Kind of just running down through the adult loser clubs, you got to talk about Jessica Chastain and James McAvoy. They're two of the best actors working today, and they do wonders with the roles as Billy and Bev. The emotional arc that Beverly actually has throughout here, Jessica Chastain played in such a subtle natural manner. And looking at James McAvoy, while I actually didn't think Bill got the most to do in this film, what he does have to do in here, McAvoy works wonders with. And of course, looking at Jay Ryan, Andy Bean, and Isaiah Mustafa, who plays Mike, Ben, and Stanley, all excellent parts as well that really fit these characters. And I really like Jay Ryan's performance as Ben. I thought he gave a great performance, and I actually wanted just a bit more of him. But of course, the big standouts of this whole entire film have to be James Brosnan and Bill Hader as Richie and Eddie. Of course, they were two of my favorites in the first film, and again, they're the big standouts of this one. But the crazy thing about this is, even though the humor might be coming from them again, and the levity works so well in there, I actually thought most of the humor in this film were actually placed better than in the first film. Where in the first film, I thought it got in the way sometimes, and sometimes it still does in this one. I thought it was placed better, and the timing was actually more perfected. And a lot of that just goes because of the chemistry between one another. But it's not just because of the hilariousness and the levity that they bring to it. It is the emotional arc that both of these actors bring. Bill Hader is fantastic in here. And I mean Oscar-worthy level emotional type stuff in here. The through line, the arc that Richie has that ties back to the first one while also tying into this one is perfection. And you can definitely tell that they wrote this character the best, but it's Hader's performance in here that brings that script and elevates it. Seriously, Hader might just be looked at as a comedian to some people, but after this film, and especially if you haven't watched the show Barry on HBO, you gotta watch all those. It'll prove you differently. James Brosnan does such a great job as Eddie as well, carrying that same through line and really having this great relationship with, again, all the loser clubs, but especially Richie, just as we saw in the first film. Be crazy not to talk about our great clown, Pennywise himself. Bill Skarsgård, again, does wonders. He's so weird, he's so wacky, and he has this Pennywise character down to the bone. The stuff they do with Pennywise in here is actually very unique and different. And by the third act, I was just floored with what they decided to do with, again, having used the word ambitious for this character. It's crazy, it's weird, and I mean, this movie gets weird. Excuse my language, but I really have to put that out there. Well, book readers might be wondering, does it actually go to that point? No. But it does go to some points while changing other aspects that I was actually all down for. Which is why I acclaim this film to be one of the first horror blockbusters. This felt like a big escalated blockbuster like one of the first Avengers films, especially when it gets down to the third act and how crazy it gets. I acclaim Warner Brothers and Muschietti for being able to do this with the story while also keeping it cohesive and still feeling like the same movie. It could have easily jumped in any other direction, but for me, it didn't. I'll also say I did not think Pennywise was in this enough. I thought they used other monsters, other kind of demons that he kind of changes into a little bit too much, which again dive back into the visual effects problems that I had. Before I give you guys my final thoughts on this film, make sure to slap that like and subscribe button where I do tons of early movie reviews like this on a daily basis, talk tons of geeky content, and of course, guys, you guys can go over to Sandwich John Films on how to see films early like It Chapter 2, and plus, let's give a round of applause to all my Patreon supporters, because without them, I wouldn't be able to do this. Chapter 2, I think, is a great conclusion. I can definitely see people walking out disappointed. I can also see people walking out loving it more than I did. This is a great emotional arc and a great end to what the first one had set up. Muschietti does such a great job directing this. The performances are off the charts. Chastain gives such a subtle emotional thing in here. Jay Ryan was a surprising standout. James McAvoy, always good, but it's Bill Hader and James Brosnan who do the best work throughout this whole entire film, especially Hader. I'm being serious. Start the Oscar campaign for him now, because he deserves a damn nomination after seeing this film. Horrific imagery that we know Muschietti for is all prevalent. While some of the jump scares and in general the scares won't be sticking with me tonight, I did think they were a little bit predictable as they built up to them. I knew it was going to get to, and sometimes it got a little bit repetitive when it got down to that, but the imagery that he does put on screen is really unique and really cool, and again goes back to that same word I'm going to say again, ambitious. It is an ambitious film for sure, and to see Warner Brothers actually create a big blockbuster horror film makes me just ooh and awe that the fact that they went this route with this movie. This is a very unique film. It's different. It's a little bit weird, but still keeps the same tone as the first one. As the first one is a coming-of-age film, this is the aftermath of that coming-of-age film with a little bit of sprinkles with a horror tendency. So with all that said, I'm going to give It Chapter 2 a B+, but if you were to watch 1 and 2 together, I would give them both a solid A-. Know what your guys' thoughts are down below in the comments. Are you guys excited for this film? Are you not? Are you feeling a little bit disappointed? Have you already seen it? Let's talk about it down below in the comments, guys. And of course, thank you guys so much for watching this. Hit that like and subscribe button if you guys are new here. Check out Sandwich on Films, and thank you to all my Patreon supporters. And of course, thank you guys for watching this video. So until next time, we all float here. Stay classy.